Hi everyone, welcome to my video. I hope you are doing well. Yesterday I uploaded a video for a beginner's guide to Scratch. Scratch is a free coding program that you can use to make animations and games. If you are brand new to Scratch or have never heard of it, click the link in the description bar below for my beginner's video. If you have experienced Scratch, this is a good video for you to watch. We are going to be diving into how to design games in Scratch. So there are a few important things that go into game designing, and one of the most important things is to have a plan. Sure, sometimes as you're designing you come up with better ideas and you can add that in, but it's hard to start when you have zero plans. So down below I'm going to have a organizer to organize your thoughts about the game you would like to create. So that will be down below, as well as a checklist with things a good game has. This will help push you to make sure you are adding all those exciting things. When you are first starting to plan your game, you want to think about the goal of the game. Is the goal of the game to get from the starting point to the end point, like in a maze? Or is the goal to collect as many points as you can? There are also always the questions of how many players? Do you have one player and it's just you? Or are you going to have two players? So we are going to go over a few of the really important blocks and categories of blocks for you today to create your game. Without further ado, let's dive in. So here is just some of my brainstorming and workspace down here for this video today. But I am going to show you some of what I think are really important things that should go into your game when you are designing it. So, first things first. I'm going to actually move these out of the way. Alright, let's think about moving. So, here, let's say this is our character that we want to move in the game. And let's take a look at events. So remember, in order for a sprite or something in your game to move, it needs to have that starting event at the top of your code to tell it when to do its move. As you'll see in a lot of games, you'll have several different codes all on one screen. So it can be a little confusing. There can be many events in just one game, which is totally fine. And as you're doing this, try to be as organized as you can so that your codes aren't just all over the place, so it's easy to find codes if you need to debug or change something because it's not working. So we are going to look at the when space key pressed block. This is going to be your best friend when creating a game. You can change this to any key on your keyboard. So like numbers and letters and the spacebar and the arrow keys. So I am going to say, let's say every time I press my right arrow, I want my sprite over here to move like this. Sometimes I find that it really does help to click and drag and move your sprite to kind of figure out what you want it to do. So we'll go back to motion and we'll say, let's move 10 steps. Right away, we can test this to see if this code will work. So I'm going to press the right arrow, and look, there he goes. Awesome. What if I wanted to go backwards? Let's pick a key. So I'm going to say when I press my left arrow key, so the opposite, I want the sprite character to go backwards. In order to go backwards, think, so forward is 10 steps. What's the opposite of 10? Negative 10. So let's throw in that negative there. I know it seems weird to move negative 10 steps, but let's test it out. When I press my left arrow key, there he goes. Another really awesome feature with Scratch is that if you have a little code, you can just click on it. You don't even have to press the key. You can just click and it will do that. So that's another way that you can test out and see if your thing is moving the right way. The next thing I want to bring up is the placement of your character. In the beginning of your game, it might be really important that your character or your sprite starts at a specific spot. think about if you were creating a maze or even just a game like this, and you want your character, your sprite, to always start in the same place, you are going to go to events and think, all right, when I press my start button or the green flag, I want my sprite to go to an exact position. You're going to move your sprite to where you want him to start. And if you look over here in the motions, this go to X and Y, watch as I move my sprite around and then I let go, those numbers are changing. And for those of you who have experience working with graphs with an x-axis and a y-axis, this is what the x and the y are. They are those numbers on an x and y graph or a chart. So that's the reasoning behind those numbers. You can experiment more with that. But for now, I think that's a great spot for him to start. So this go to X and Y, that means, let's say I end the game and my sprite's over here, but I want someone else to play my game. When they press that start button, immediately the sprite will move back to that starting spot that you have decided on. Now, quickly, I'm going to show you that when I double click on my character sprite of the cat, all of the codes for that sprite in particular are there. I can also code other sprites. So, I'm gonna hide that for now, if I could. So when I click on this diamond, there's more room for code specifically for the diamond. So, let's say I'm trying to make this game where the cat is trying to get to the diamond or the jewel. I don't want it to be super duper easy because then it's not as fun. I'm going to make the diamond move around the screen as the cat tries to get it. So, when the flag is clicked, when I'm clicking that flag, the sprite of the cat is also doing things, but I want, again, the diamond to move around. So, glide 1 second to a random position. That could be pretty interesting. So, again, let's test it out. I'm going to click this to see what happens. And so if you notice, every time I will have started my game, the diamond's going to move. I'm going to change the seconds on this. So now it's going to glide. It's going to take 5 whole seconds to get to one spot. So it's going to move a lot slower. Awesome. I also want to figure out a good starting point for the jewel. So I'm going to put it right there. And again, when the flag is clicked, before it moves and glides around, I'm going to have it go to its exact position that it's at right now, which is this X and Y numbers, and then it's going to glide. So I'm pressing the flag, and it moves immediately there, and then it starts to glide. I really quickly want to go over scoring with you, so let's take a look at some of these blocks that we haven't quite looked at yet. Control, these are things like loops and if-then statements. A loop simply is an action that is repeated over and over again for either a certain amount of times or for forever. So forever in this game, I want my sprite to be changing colors constantly, forever, and never stopping. I'll put it in that forever. If it's just a few times I want it to repeat, I'll put it in that repeat. If-then statements are vital for scoring. So, this if-then is essentially if something happens, then whatever is in this little section will happen. So, I mean, you can think of an if-then statement in your life right now. So, if I am hungry, then I will go to the kitchen for lunch. Or if I stay up all night, then I will be very tired the next day. It's kind of like that. So, for scoring, we need an if-then statement. There are a few others, wait until something happens, or this if-then or else. So if something happens, then that will happen. or else something else will happen. That one I want you to play around with and try and figure out on your own. Sensing is another really key one for scoring. So sensing is like if a sprite senses something, if it touches something, if it touches another sprite, or if it touches the edges of the little stage that you have over here, or if your mouse pointer touches whatever, you can have it do different things. So that's where the if then comes in. The next thing I want to show you is variables. So in order to do scoring, you're going to click on make a variable and new name, and you're just going to type in score or whatever you would like to call your score. That score box is going to come up right up here. And you have a few blocks that are important to variables in scoring. So your first one is set my variable to 0, and then your second one is change my variable by 1. So hopefully if you're thinking ahead at home as you're watching, you're kind of figuring out the process for creating a score. If not, I'm going to show you quickly what I came up with for my score. The really cool thing about codes is that a lot of times there are different ways to doing the same thing. So if you're at home and you're making a score for your game and your code looks slightly different, or you did it in a different way, but it still works, that is awesome. I think that's one of the magical parts about coding and STEM challenges like this. There's always more than one right answer. So, real quickly, I'm going to show you what I came up with for my score. So, this is super important. When your flag is clicked, so like your start button in a game, you want to set your score to 0. So let me show you how I got this variable block. I chose set my variable to 0, but you have to remember to change it to score. You're setting that score bar to 0 when you press start. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as fun if you're starting a game and you already have 7 points and you're not quite sure how you got them, but you already do. So there's that. Now I have when, oh, you know what? I'm going to change this. Actually, I just caught a bug in my code. So I'm going to say that when the green flag is clicked, let's see if this will work. Okay, so I was trying something out, but it didn't work. But that's okay. That's, again, the best way to learn in Scratch is to just experiment. When the green flag is clicked, so right now you can see I'm under the cat sprite. So if the cat sprite touches the crystal, then the score will change by 1. Let's see if it works. Ooh, so since we added the diamond gliding, before that we didn't have any buttons to move up or down. To move up and down, it's just a simple change in the y-axis. So you would change y by 10 to go up, change y by -10 to go down. We are running out of time though. So those are the key things. So we talked about controls, so like if-then statements. If my sprite touches the edge of my maze, then a buzzer sound will play. If my sprite touches a coin, then a ching noise will play, and I will get a point. If my sprite touches the bonus coin, I will get 5 points. Those are very key for your score, as well as variables. So creating your score variable so that it can keep track during your game, and sensors. So figuring out when the sprite touches whatever it is that it's touching, what will happen. Hopefully that was a bit of a deeper dive into game design with Scratch. The awesome part is there are tons of resources on Scratch itself or online for more game design related things. I will be collecting a bunch and putting them down below for you. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you make a game, please tell me all about it. I can't wait. All right. Goodbye. Have a great rest of your day.